Welcome to my channel Daily Bulletin News. StefanOMG. The days of our lives twist so shocking, they couldn't go there. Kristen and the woman in white have finally come face to face on Days of Our Lives, and in the process we've learned two things. First, the woman haunting Aremid is, indeed, that woman in white, Kristen and Peter's mom, Rachel Blake, thought dead for the past 30 years after blowing herself and Stefano up. And second, Kristen's going along with both Rachel's plan to keep Ava kidnapped. Neither of those things were exactly surprising. We know how Kristen works, despite her protestations that she wants to do better. And the show was hitting us over the head as hard as it could with the woman in white. But there could still be one big surprise coming our way. One thing we've noticed throughout this story is all the conversations where everyone makes clear that Kristen isn't a DiMera by blood, but she's still very much a DiMera. Stefano took her and Peter in as foster children after their parents died, though for much of their lives, they still went by the Blake name. In fact, Peter still does. Though it all happened off-screen before we ever met either of the Blake siblings, the whole foster children thing kicked off, we eventually learned, because Stefano was obsessed with pursuing their mother to the point that he killed her husband with a car bomb. Rachel was also in the car, though, and was also presumed dead. She wasn't. Instead, she turned into the woman in white, a mysterious figure who covered her scarred face, on account of the bomb, with a veil and haunted Aremid for decades. You can delve more into that tale here. Kristen eventually dropped the Blake name, first, when she married Tony, back when Eileen Davidson played her, at Stefano's behest in order to bear his child, and then after Stefano officially adopted her as an adult. And, to their credit, the rest of the family pretty much considers her as much a DiMera as they are. But all this talk now about whether or not Kristen is a DiMera by blood, and what traits she got from Stefano, versus Rachel, has gotten us thinking. They never mention Kristen's biological father as being an influence, even though he would have been a part of Kristen's childhood just as much as her mother. So what if the show is prepping us for the big reveal that Kristen is Stefano's true daughter after all? Maybe Stefano actually did manage to hook up with Rachel for a bit and she got pregnant with Kristen without ever telling him. After all, she, of all people, knows how much of a monster Stefano is, so she wouldn't have wanted any of her children tainted by his influence. But it's far too late for that, as these days, Kristen is more DiMera than Blake. With Stefano finally gone, Rachel's been hiding from him in Aremid, not realizing he'd died years ago, though, there's really no point in keeping the secret any longer. The one problem would be Kristen's marriage to Tony. True, Tony ended up not actually being Stefano's biological son, but he also wasn't really Tony during his marriage to Kristen. Instead, she was married to Stefano's nephew, Andre, who was impersonating Tony for years after getting plastic surgery to look exactly like him. And then, it was retconned that Andre was actually Stefano's son, while Tony wasn't. It's a complicated mess with the show undoing and redoing relationships over and over again, not unlike John's paternity. Remember when he was Stefano's son, too? Days of Our Lives, though, could be gearing up to switch things so that the dead, villainous Andre was not actually a DiMera, nor Stefano's son. That would make his marriage to Kristen okay. We wish they could re-retcon Tony into being Stefano's son again, but then he would be René Dumond's half-brother, and they did finally sleep with each other before her death. This could all fit into Thal Penglis sharing his excitement that the DiMeras are back. It would force the family to take a deep dive into their pasts and their connections as Kristen would be revealed to be a true DiMera and Peter would return to hash things out with his mom and sister. Plus, it would prompt Tony's return as they worked through the switches and impersonations and learn whether Andre really was Stefano's son after all. Stay tuned and subscribe the channel.